Things change, the more they stay the same. And truly, no company exemplifies this seemingly nonsensical proverb quite like Disney, whose creative and financial decisions over the past 5 years or so remind me of a fading pop star making increasingly ridiculous attempts to reinvent themselves without understanding why people are losing interest in the first place. Case in point,
Oh,
the
I know why they're
retirement of
losing
Bob
interest.
Iger as head of the company back in 2020 after 15 years in the role, during which he basically made it his mission to swallow up every studio and IP on the market. Because if you can't come up with good ideas of your own, just buy someone else's.
Duh.
Lucasfilm, Pixar, Marvel, 20th Century Fox, all of them were assimilated into the Disney collective. They were a bit like the Borg from Star Trek, only more sinister and less creative. His approach might have been ruthless and relentless conglomeration, but fuck me, it was undeniably effective. The MCU under Disney's influence became a box office juggernaut. Pixar began churning out a steady stream of financial hits, and Lucasfilm, well, they were there. Anyway, the point is the company exploded into some kind of Lovecraftian monster under his leadership, with its slimy tendrils extending into practically every major entertainment property in Hollywood. But this golden age could not last, and gradually it
Wasn't he the one who also was holding the front line for all this woke shit?
became obvious that something was rotten in the state of Disney. Along with the massive increase in revenue came an influx of soulless parasites. People with, shall we say, a very specific political worldview. People who saw the films and TV shows they were tasked with producing less as creative endeavours and more as conveniently large platforms from which to shout the message. And well, these people soon began to make their mark on the company, and believe me, it wasn't a pretty one. Star Wars, under the not-so-wise stewardship of Kathleen Kennedy, quickly went from one of the most popular, recognisable and profitable brands in the world to a rotting shell of its former self, with diminishing box office returns, a horribly divided fan base, and seemingly constant drama and conflict behind the scenes. Even the once mighty MCU began to creak and shudder as more and more identity politics wrenches were thrown into its perfectly tuned machinery. And Bob Iger didn't just sit back and allow this shit to happen, he practically encouraged it. Why? Simple, because it made him look good. It allowed the media to write lots of flattering puff piece articles about how he was championing diversity, opening up opportunities, elevating marginalised voices, and all the usual buzzword bullshit you expect these days. But old Bob was no fool. He was smart enough to see that problems were on the horizon and that it was time for him to get out. The problems that he'd allowed to fester and worsen during his tenure were coming to a head by the end of the 2010s, and when the unspecified virus of unknown origin came along to shut down the company's one remaining source of revenue, the theme parks, he wisely decided to get the fuck out of Dodge and let someone else pick up the pieces for him. And in this case, the chosen fall guy was Bob Chapek. Unlike his predecessor, Chapek wasn't particularly interested in his public image. He wasn't interested in pandering to identity politics for some cheap hollow media praise, or pushing the message just to keep the blue-haired land whales on Twitter happy. I mean, don't get me wrong, he certainly wasn't some selfless martyr willingly throwing himself under the bus for the good of the company either. But what he actually was a money man. The kind of guy who looks at the bottom line when it comes to making creative decisions. He was there to turn Disney around, to make it profitable again, and his chosen path towards that goal was political neutrality. There would be no more thinly veiled activism, no more weighing in on divisive political issues, no more pandering to the message. I know, it sounds crazy, right? Imagine an entertainment company that just wants to produce entertainment instead of lecturing you about historical injustices and why you should feel guilty for existing, telling you how you should feel on social political issues, advocating for which political candidates you should support. Chapek also restructured the company's executive positions so that the studio heads and senior managers were actually expected to perform to a good standard. There would be no more cushy 5-year contracts where you could just sit back and collect a paycheck regardless of how shit your work was. The message was clear: if you don't deliver results, then you're out the fucking door, son. Now, as you can imagine, this change of strategy didn't go down too well with certain elements of Disney's staff, who immediately went to war with Chapek. An attempt to stay stay neutral on a political bill in Florida that had absolutely nothing to do with Disney resulted in mass staff walkouts, social media outrage, and a humiliating climb down for Chapek, where he was forced to make a grovelling video pledging his allegiance to the cults. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the face of a man held hostage by his own employees. Still, he was determined to see his plan through,
He really
and a
was
3-year
held
contract
hostage.
extension in June 2022 seemed to indicate that the Disney board were prepared to back him all the way. It's funny how ideology takes a back seat when your own arse is on the line, isn't it? Now, a big part of Chapek's plan to return the company to profitability was to make it leaner and more efficient, and that meant layoffs. A lots of layoffs. Because like any big company, Disney had become bloated and inefficient, filled with people occupying pointless roles, making an awful lot of noise but doing very little actual work. And if I was a cynical man, I'd be willing to bet that a lot of the staff targeted for redundancy just so happened to be the loudest and most obnoxious activists who'd caused him so much trouble in Florida. If they were a cancer growing within the company, then Chapek was the surgeon sharpening his scalpel. But truly, life's got a funny way of turning things around, and wouldn't you know it, suddenly the announcement was made last night that Chapek was out and Bob Iger was returning as CEO of Disney.
Oh!
No way!
Oh my goodness, who could have seen this one coming? I mean, a decision like that couldn't possibly have come at a better time for all those employees, activists, executives, and studio heads that Chapek had in his crosshairs. And if
Right.
you think for 1 second that this decision was a mutual one, then bless your heart, you sweet summer childs. There is no way on this green earth that Chapek would have willingly stepped down when he was right on the verge of putting his plan into action. And there's also no way the board of directors would have broken his contract, incurring massive financial penalties unless some pretty powerful people convinced them that they had to do it. And so, here we find ourselves right back where we started. If you think Bob
Well-
Iger's here to fix things and get Disney back on track after years of mistakes, well, I got some bad news for you, my friend. He isn't, and he won't. He's the guy who created these fucking problems in the first place, so you'll forgive me if I'm a little dubious about his ability or even his motivation to solve them. What he is a safe bet, a return to the status quo, a guy who won't rock the corporate boat or ask difficult questions or raise the dangerous thought that maybe, just maybe, people aren't buying what they're selling. Because what they're selling is shit. What all this comes down to is the desperation of a company trapped in a prison of its own making, afraid of its own employees, afraid of its shareholders, afraid of social media blowback, afraid of journalists ready to pounce on any sign of weakness, and afraid of activists ready and willing to destroy anyone who doesn't toe the line. Just ask Bob Chapek. So no, I don't expect that Bob Iger is some kind of messiah that's returned in Disney's hour of need to rescue the company. In fact, unless he's had a complete change of personality and worldview, I think his return is only going to accelerate the company's inevitable decline. Even worse, is going to embolden the
He's gonna
worst
put the
elements
final
within the
nail on the coffin.
organisation, reassuring them that their future's secure and nobody is ever going to challenge them again. So if you think the stuff they're putting out right now is bad, well, just wait until you see what's coming over the next few years. But hey, it's gonna be fun to kick back with a beer and laugh at their fucking failure. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Okay. What else? What else we got? Anyone wanna chime in? Oh, we got one viewer. We got one solid viewer. Let's see some Pokemon reviews.
I have played Pokemon Scarlet for around 30 plus hours, and I'm here to share my initial thoughts for those of you who are on the
30
fence
plus
on
hours?
whether
The game just
games
came
are
out on
worth it or not.
Friday.
Or if you're just curious. You may
Fucking
be
no
surprised to
lives.
hear this, but the games are low-key kinda nice. Like, no joke. Game Freak, after stumbling over 3D Pokemon for the past 16 years, has finally hit its stride and produced a Pokemon game that fully embraces 3D. From the environments to the gameplay, and even to the Pokemon
we are.
themselves, everything feels cohesive and well thought out. The environments, while not the most
Oh, this guy's
appealing, are
Canadian.
a hell of a lot better than the
We got a
Wild
Canada
area,
man.
and even Legends Arceus. It's one of Game Freak's better looking games. Granted, not a super high bar by any means, but still. Some parts genuinely look really good. You're free to
Look a
explore
little bit.
every inch of Paldea to your heart's content with only a handful of loading screens. There was, however, a noticeable hit to performance. The game really struggles to maintain 30 frames. Allegedly, a day 1 patch will be released that may address this, but we shall see. The Pokemon ride system was finally fully realized in this game and is essentially perfect. You can jump, swim, fly,
But the frame
and
rate
climb
isn't, let me
seamlessly.
tell you.
And the box legend feels like a genuine member of your team instead of some random Pokemon you call upon from time to time. You can effortlessly explore the 3D environment and you aren't hampered by 2D elements that held back some of the older 3D Pokemon games.
No, but you're held back by the
for
frame
the
rate.
first time in a long time, finally feel new and fresh. Basically, every single one got a new coat of paint with their textures, showing off more, well, texture, like hair or scales depending on the Pokemon. Some Pokemon are also rocking updated models and look fantastic. It feels like a home console Pokemon game as opposed to a ported 3DS title. Pokemon can also be seen doing various things in the overworld, like spiders dangling from trees, or crocs bathing in the sand. These seemingly small additions enhance immersion a great deal and contribute to the world building, as well as fleshing out the monsters themselves to make them appear more like believable creatures instead of lines of code. The new Gen 9 Pokemon are pretty good, with some interesting designs and concepts. Fuecoco and his evolutions are the best fire starters since Gen 4. I'm a bit biased when I say this, as every single one of my favorite Pokemon made a return, with the sole exception of Milotic, but I really enjoyed the selection and variety of Pokemon in this game, and look forward to another run using the Pokemon I didn't get to try out the first time. Sadly, the coveted catching mechanic of Legends Arceus is completely removed, forcing the player to engage with the Pokemon in battle first before being able to catch them. The battles themselves are also a slight downgrade from Legends,
door there.
physical attacks no longer making physical contact, causing battles to feel less impactful and immersive than they otherwise should. Pokemon are at least properly scaled this time around though, which adds a lot of personality to the monsters and is greatly appreciated. The player can't move during battles but can still move the camera, which is a nice touch at least. The auto battles are a solid addition as well that help you to more easily farm the materials needed in this game to craft their respective TMs. The material system acts as an additional incentive to interact with as many Pokemon as possible, with auto battles allowing you to do so more frequently. Even though the auto battles are far faster than traditional battles, I still feel they're rather slow, with noticeable player downtime waiting for your Pokemon to run through groups of wild Pokemon. It would have benefited the player greatly by allowing the player to send out more than one Pokemon at a time, something you can actually do in other parts of the game, begging the question why you can't elsewhere. I actually enjoyed the raid battles for once. I went out of my way to avoid them in Sword and Shield due to disliking the lame Dynamax gimmick, as well as the raids themselves just being really clunky, slow, and boring. These raids are much faster paced since everyone attacks when they want, and the gimmick of this generation, Terastallization, is infinitely more intriguing than Dynamax ever was. Aside from the silly hats the Pokemon wear, the Terastallizing gimmick is a welcomed addition, and is the second best battle gimmick after Mega Evolutions. The game is split up into 3 different stories that all coalesce into an epic finale that is of similar hype levels to Legends Arceus' post-game. It's honestly really cool. Once you pass the tutorial stage, you can tackle any of these 3 stories at your own pace and in any order. I can't really put into words how great it feels having the entire Pokemon game open up in this manner, allowing you to carve out your own unique path. The replayability of this game will be far higher by default just from this alone. I'm typically not a huge fan of open world games in general, as I find them to be a bit aimless, but Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have just enough littered all throughout the map to constantly make you feel engaged and ready to tackle the next challenge. As for the 3 stories themselves, they are rather simple, but that plays to their strengths a lot at the time. They're relatable and have a warm genuineness to them. The weakest one was the Team Star mission, but even that has its merits. A pleasant surprise was that Gen 9's Ami gimmick, the picnics and sandwich creation, are actually tied into the main campaign instead of being an isolated feature, further contributing to the cohesiveness I mentioned earlier. The post-game is rather light, and from what I've seen so far, the Battle Tower has been completely removed, which is beyond disappointing since I was hoping to challenge the Battle Tower with my girlfriend, assuming they even brought that ability back. But nope, instead they just removed the entire thing.
Edit mode.
Because of course they did. You gain access to challenging raid battles, but those only go so far and are not a sufficient replacement for traditional Pokemon battles. Maybe they will sell the Battle Tower back to the player in the DLC? Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. One very disappointing thing is that this game finally removes the battle style option, meaning you are forced to play with the shift style where, after you knock out a Pokemon, the game tells you what Pokemon is coming out next and gives you an opportunity for a switch advantage. Not only does this take away a bit of the surprise with what Pokemon comes out next, but this effectively lobotomizes the game, arguably making it one of the easiest Pokemon games if you were to use the mechanics the devs are forcing you to use. We'll probably get 1 or 2 comments pointing out that you can just skip the prompt, while yeah, you can. That's completely beside the point. The point is you shouldn't have to in the first place. It's very annoying having
Man,
to do
whatever.
it for the entire game,
Fucking delete that
especially when you
shit.
don't have to for
Okay.
literally every other Pokemon title. This is an
Sometimes it's
objective
just easier to
downgrade
just do it
for
yourself.
players who don't need or want to break the game by abusing free Switch advantages. I did find the game decently challenging by ignoring Game Freak's intrusive and frustrating handholding, especially in the latter half. It's just unfortunate that annoying prompts accompany and detract from an otherwise enjoyable experience. Experience share still can't be turned off, and the horrible affection mechanic from Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl returns, but was thankfully toned down considerably since I only benefited from it a single time in my 30-hour plus run. The game is rather buggy, with the most consistent offender being the camera. It constantly no-clips through the game worlds. Nothing game-breaking as I never experienced a crash or a soft lock, but there are definitely some wrinkles that need ironing out. Again, this may be addressed with the day one patch, so take it with a grain of salt. It goes without saying, but the music slaps, especially some of the tracks later in the game. And yeah, those are my initial thoughts of the game. The core of the game is very enjoyable with minor annoyances here and there. I honestly can't wait for the modding community to come in and patch some of the holes currently holding this game back. I have yet to play with
mods
the
for
online
Nintendo
capabilities of
Switch?
Scarlet and Violet, namely the ability to roam around in the same game world with friends to play together. If the game performance doesn't tank like what happened in Sword and Shield's Wild area, then it could be a good time. If the performance becomes even worse than it already is, then that is very concerning to say the least. Anyways, hopefully this was enlightening to some of you. Let me know down below if you plan to get the games or not. More Scarlet and Violet videos on the horizon, as well as a proper, full-fledged review in the
Oh my
works,
god,
so
I
stay
can't wait
tuned
till
for
his
that.
other
Thanks for
Scarlet
watching,
and
guys.
Violet
Till next
videos.
time.
Dude, how long before this guy's channel just dies because all he makes is Scarlet and Violet videos? Or Pokemon videos? 111,000 subscribers. You think we could beat him? Subscribe. Hit that like button. Give me that golden YouTube button. You know what I'm talking about. The gold button. Give me that. Help me get that. And what you'll get in return is a fucking t-shirt with my fucking
Pull
fat
over.
face
This is
on
the
it.
opinion police. We got a report that you like a game that I don't, so you're going to the slammer. I'm talking about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. To extend this broader, it's not so much about liking the game or not. I'm not here to change your mind if you really enjoy the game. I'm talking about excusing all of the obvious problems and writing them off as not a big deal when there are a lot of unacceptable, objectively broken things about this game. I'm just getting pretty tired of people getting mad at myself and others for pointing out glaring problems with the game and writing it off as being nitpicky and saying that those things aren't real issues to actual genuine Pokemon fans. And I have to wonder, like, what genjutsu you're trapped under, what fucking delusional fantasy you're living in to say that a lot of the things that are being pointed out about how broken the game is aren't a big deal or aren't a detriment to the overall experience. I just feel like this battling for the honor of your favorite franchise and not acknowledging problems is going in the wrong direction for the industry. There's nothing wrong with liking Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in spite of its flaws. You can still like the game and acknowledge its problems. There's nothing wrong there. That's not a crime. That's not a sin. The Lord's not going to cast you to hell for that. It's just cosplaying as an unpaid PR manager for your franchise and writing off legitimate criticism as just haters is super silly. But this isn't a problem that's exclusive to Pokemon by any means at all. Another great example is Warzone 2.0. Oh my god, I played that little pimple for 6 hours yesterday and it felt like dunking my head in a garbage disposal. It was just painful. I think I crashed in total 7 times, and even when I wasn't crashing, I would often get into a lobby with unplayable lag. But when the game did work, I enjoyed it. The problem was it just seldomly worked. It's in such a bad state right now. And a lot of people write that off as, well, what did you expect? It just came out. And I think that is a problem. And it's the same thing that a lot of people are saying about Pokemon. I think that's just not okay. Why are we alright with that all of a sudden? Why are we okay with a game launching and not really being playable for the most part? Why is that good? Like, yes, I'm sure eventually the problems will be fixed. I agree. But why not just fix them and then release it? Like how things used to be a while ago. It's been a long time, I understand. But why? Why do we want them so early when they don't work well? Why not just hold them to some level of
Check out this
standards
little
of
trick I'm about to
releasing
do.
something that works, that's not
Create a
fucking
floor plan
broken.
with Blender
I don't
building
understand why we're
tools.
totally fine with it now, where all of a sudden
Line it
I'm on
up
the outside
with
and
the
everyone's like, oh,
vertices.
look at this fucking goofball thinking that a game would work on launch week. As if, like, I'm stupid for expecting things to be functional. It is so fucking frustrating, and it just steams my ham. Now, to kind of
It
shift
steams
back
my
towards
ham?
Pokemon and how it all
Whose
relates
ham
there,
is he steaming?
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet launched, and it has some of the
All right,
worst
line it up
performance
more or
out of any
less.
modern game I've ever experienced. It is
Yeah.
absolutely embarrassing and downright
Be
laughable.
good there.
Just truly pathetic. And I
Yeah.
think this is a combination
So select
of a few
all of
things.
these, add floors
One,
to it.
the team behind it, Game Freak, being extremely untalented, some of the most untalented developers in the entire business. And two, them not having enough time to fully flesh out their game and their systems.
A little
And
bit
I
bigger.
think that's pretty obvious when you look at the last Pokemon game that came out, Legends of Arceus,
a little
being
bigger
only
there.
10 months old. Legends of Arceus came out January 28th of this year. They didn't even have a full year before releasing their newest game. Now, you might remember my moist meter for Legends of Arceus. I actually was quite positive on it, and I look back on it fondly. I enjoyed it. I think that was a step in the right direction, which has become the catchphrase for modern Pokemon games where they just step in the right direction but never actually hit their mark. And with Arceus, I thought, okay, they have a formula here, they have an idea, now give it some time, they'll flesh it out and make it better. Well, they gave them no time, ripped all the flesh off like a hungry cannibal, and released this half-baked, undercooked, downright raw slab of beef. My game can't run at anything above 15 FPS, oftentimes less than that, and every single time I'm in an
Alright, let's
area
add
that has
another
more
floor
than
here.
like 3 or 4 things on
We got
screen,
this
some of them
subdivided.
are moving at literally 2 frames per second, actual slideshow. And the game also can't render shit, so everything's always popping in and out. You don't even know what's real and what's not. You're constantly like in this rift between dimensions, like in between realms. It couldn't render your fucking hand in front of your face. So you'll be like riding around on the back of your motorcycle Pokemon, and it looks like it's just open world in front of you. Nothing but you and the breeze blowing your hair, wind in the sails. But then as you're going, all of a sudden you hit like a fucking speed bump of tiny little eggplant Pokemon that have just rendered into the world, and now you're locked into a little battle wasting time there. And, of course, the world is beyond empty. You don't see things until they see you, and you're like right in front of them. And if you make the mistake, God forbid, you make the mistake of jumping while on the back of your Pokemon, you're spending 15 seconds in the air, because it goes through that jump animation frame by frame like you're watching a sports highlight on an impressive moment. You get to experience that jump, every agonizing second of that jump, as if it's a flip book being flipped in front of your face. It's pathetic. These are universal issues. They're not exclusive to just me or a few players. This is the performance across the board. And it's full of so many bugs and glitches, it's unreal. A really fun one that was discovered today is if you plug in another controller while playing and you go forward on both controllers, you get turbo speed, you get super speed. That's actually a pretty hype glitch though, but overall, just like a nut, this game is busted. And I really don't like that people are pretending it's not. I'm still seeing a lot of rave reviews for it in spite of these problems, and like I said, it's fine to like it, but if you're going to be an outlet like actually reviewing this, you need to fully take into account these problems. They are detrimental to the overall experience and weigh everything
What do you mean,
down.
Charlie?
Now, one thing I've been very vocal about, especially in the last few years with Game Freak, is how lazy they are. I think Game Freak devs have had the easiest job for the last 20 years in the gaming industry. They just go in occasionally, click Control-C, Control-V, call it a day. I don't think
this is like completely the opposite of the guy we just watched.
Some new stuff, and I appreciate the effort there. But with this, it's 50 steps backwards. And I don't know if it's just because they rushed this out. It feels like they rushed it out because it's so clunky, janky, and unfinished. But it's still very lazy. One thing that I think just off top of mind to improve Pokemon would be voice acting. I have yet to hear a single good argument from anyone to say why voice acting wouldn't be welcomed in a new game. Why? Why not have voice acting? That's such an easy inclusion. That would immediately improve the experience overall. 100%. I think everyone would agree. There is no argument for why they haven't other than money and greed. Pokemon is the biggest, highest grossing media franchise ever. They could absolutely afford for their flagship titles like their video games to have voice acting at the very least. Like, that would have been such an easy thing to bring in here to get people hype. Something as simple as just voice acting. But they don't, because they know they don't need to. They can be as lazy as they want, and people will still eat that shit up. Now, I do still enjoy the Pokemon combat formula. I don't know, it's just never gotten old for me. I do still get happy playing the games. But there's still room to improve there as well. Even outside of, like, gameplay and mechanics, you could add more animations. Half of these animations are fucking reused anyway. They often reuse models as well, so it's not like they're spending a ton of time painstakingly recreating these models or improving these models, but why not? Why not add more animations? You have enough money, you have a big team. Why not add more animations, make them flashier, make them look better, add more of them? Like, there's just so many easy things that they could do, quality of life improvements, to actually make Pokemon games feel and look better. Because these games look like absolute dog shit. Holy fuck, they look worse than a lot of the Steam new release indie title tech demos that are scams on Steam. Like, they actually look better than... those actually look better than, like, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The vast majority of the shit in this game is untextured. Like, there's just so much of it, and maybe it's
This is like a
just the textures
complete
aren't
180
moving,
from
I
the
have no
last
idea.
guy.
But, like, half of the game is just untextured, and it all looks like shit anyway, even when there are textures that load in. This is just not a $60 experience. It's a joke to be asking that amount for
It's
this
a
product.
fucking
That
$40
$60 is better
experience.
spent as kindling for your fireplace than spent on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, I'll say it for the third fucking time now. There's nothing wrong with still liking the game. I do still like the core bits and pieces of Scarlet
I love
and
the
Violet,
game.
and
I'll suck the
there's
game's
nothing wrong
dick.
with that. But the entire package is not in a state that was ready to ship. It's not even close. And I don't think that it's okay to be saying
this
that
down.
it'll be fixed eventually, so it's fine. You're just overreacting. Oh my god, it's launch week. Get over it. They'll get it better
Launch
in a
week.
year from now, a month from now, whatever. That's just not a good excuse.
It's
the
not.
game should be in a good state when it comes out. It should be content complete.
If I'm paying
It should
$60, I
be
want a
working,
complete game.
functional. That's not just talking about Pokemon. That's talking about Warzone 2 and so many other modern games that I wouldn't even know where to start listing all of them. There's just this
Link the
trend where
materials
people
and link
expect the games to not
modifiers.
work, and they're fine with that because they believe, and
Select,
usually
view
rightfully so,
project.
that the game
Damn,
will eventually
look at that.
work. That's just still bad. The game
Select the
should
slabs,
work
assign new
at
material.
launch. Yeah, overall,
Bring
I just
that
wanted
up.
to whine about this a little bit. It's just
Set it
a
as
really
concrete.
sad state that a lot of these
Bam.
games are in right now, and I think
Look
that
at that.
as gamers, you should stop being okay with being fed this
Like
shit.
the top
Like,
here,
stop swallowing
the
that
roof,
shit with a smile
assign
on
new
your face
material.
and writing off
that
legitimate
up.
criticism as just
Set
haters
that as
not
concrete.
getting it or not appreciating the art.
Look at that.
There is nothing wrong with calling out these problems and saying that they shouldn't be there in the first place, and it should be
Select
better.
the whole thing,
and could
make the
be better.
UVs a little
I
bit
think all of
bigger,
that's
line them
very
up with
fair.
the slabs.
That's really about it. See ya.
Shift Alt Z to get rid of those lines.
This is one of those situations
And you
where
can see a little bit better.
it's like the tide has reached its
Few days
maximum
ago.
point. There was articles coming about talking about how basically every MCU character now, every
There we
male
go.
hero in the MCU has now been replaced by a female counterpart, which I
Woo!
just thought was fantastic. It's almost like I don't know if that article was done ironically or mocking this whole concept, but man, it's like they're almost there, like recognizing the problem that they've created for themselves, but they're not quite. But yeah, like when you look at them now, all the main Avengers now have a female version of themselves in the MCU. So
Thank
you
God.
had
Thank
you've
God.
got, female Thor, you've got female Iron Man, you've got female Hulk, you've got female Black Panther, you've
You got
got,
a female Black Widow.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they were going with that one.
Female Captain America.
Female Captain America, yeah. We've got whatever the fuck Mrs. Marvel.
Hey, I like
is,
Peggy Carter.
she's
Don't
like
talk shit
female
about Peggy
version
Carter.
of,
She's
uh,
the best
She's a
fucking
derivative of Captain
girl in the
Marvel, who's a
MCU.
female Captain Marvel. So
Bring that back a
in
little.
POC, it's a POC, but it has to be a female after that. And remember, kids, that the MCU is not just turning every character into a woman; it's surrounding every male
Yep, there's a
character with
water
a
tower here.
minimum of 2 women. And most of the time, it's 3. Go back and watch the last 5 movies, and anytime a straight male of any race, size or shape goes out on an adventure, he is surrounded by his crack team of women. And it's
Crack team of
freaking
women.
hilarious.
What about
and
Spider-Man
predictable.
and
You know,
Fat
there's
Ned?
some certainties in life, death, taxes, and things can only get so retarded. And we are at that point.
Taxes.
I mean, what would be next if they hadn't failed? Were they going to put all the men in like Carmen Miranda 6-inch heels? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
what else are they going to do?
there was no
Look at
pushback,
Tyler
George.
Perry's House of Pain.
Absolutely. We'd have the trans Avengers for sure.
But you saw Emily Blunt this week. She came out and she gave an interview and she was like, "I'm done with the whole female lead. Anytime I read a script where it says strong female lead, she's like, I just roll my eyes." She goes, "I'm
This is like a water tower, so let's give it some.
Well, if your defining character trait is just that you're strong, like you've not got a character. That's not a character.
That's not a
trait. That's
character.
just like a generic boilerplate thing that you're supposed to tack onto every female character at this point. She's strong. Of course, she's strong. What does strong even mean? Is she physically?
It means
strong?
nothing.
Is
It's a
she
colloquial
intellectually strong?
term.
Emotionally
And strong from the beginning as well, from the outset. So there's no room for character growth of any kind. If it's Galadriel, or if it's the 19-year-old professor genius prodigy in Wakanda Forever, who's perfect in every way right at the outset.
Oh, we'll talk about that. Don't worry.
And all the best female characters across time. None of us fucking describe them or introduce them as, oh,
It's
this one has a
smooth.
strong female character. That's why Aliens is good. It's got a strong female character. Nobody says that. It's like,
You know
they're
why
just good
that's
characters.
like? I mean, that's technically a sexist statement in it of itself, because you're just insinuating that all the other women aren't strong. That's exactly what
That is
that
an exception. Yeah.
and,
But
yeah.
they were able to portray strong women for over 40 years before we hit the woke era without any problem. Whether, again, you have Ripley or you had any one of Luc Besson's films, La Femme Nikita. I mean, look at her. She came off great, strong female character, but you didn't have any of this agenda.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it comes down to
How do I
like,
make this
the
quick?
sort of social media aspect of it, where they feel like they have to really hammer home that point. This character is strong. You know, she's breaking glass ceilings. She's like defying boundaries. She's like subverting gender norms.
Okay,
You know, it used to be that movies could just let the characters do the talking for themselves. Like what you saw and why you interpreted that was your understanding of the character. Now you have to be straight up told what to think about these characters. It's like too much exposure to too much.
Why does it remind me of the Joe
stupidity
Rogan podcast?
backstage, because they don't
Man,
trust you
things used to
form
be
your own
one
opinions
way,
about
and
any of
now
these
they're like
characters because they're
another.
not well written enough for them to.
Isn't that
for them to actually
crazy?
Do that.
You ever done DMT?
No, and you know, strong just means, well, you said it right there. It's subverting gender norms. That's the basis behind this. It's like strong means dude. They're just dudes now. I mean, like that cover of Empire magazine with Galadriel sitting with her legs so she's gonna give birth to a Balrog. She's like
No, she'll give birth to a baby, but it'll be clad in a suit of armor, just like
it
her.
will be, yeah, yeah. It will
I mean,
sit
it's
just like her.
I mean,
Whoa,
it's
whoa,
everything.
whoa,
Even
whoa, whoa.
Wakanda Forever.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, look at it. It's supposed to be written by Ryan Coogler, right? And Cole. Except I feel like it comes across more
Cougs.
like from the perspective of an estrogen-deprived woman looking for a hormone high by gaslighting the audience. I mean, it's like, who are they writing it
That's
for?
good.
Are they writing it for like celebrity? sex
Remember,
stars?
folks, things
I
that
mean,
are going to be
seriously,
really far
there's
away,
nothing
you
there
don't need to
that
think
can
about that
grab
hard.
An average audience member, even normies, are turning around. now.
Well, I
Okay.
think this is the interesting thing about Wakanda Forever, because obviously you're
Work on.
following on
What are
from
we gonna
like
be able
one
to
of the
see?
biggest success stories of the MCU, like Black Panther. Whatever its objective qualities as a piece of art, was a piece of marketing genius, because they managed to spin this to the point where
Hang
if
on,
you
there's a new
didn't give
Nerdist
this
video.
movie 11 out of
Here we
10,
go. See what he's talking about. More MCU. Damn, these guys are hard on the paint.
But I think having all three films,
I hate this
where the
lady.
major character that was introduced was a woman. It seems like it's a shift in the entire MCU. I hate the MCU slogan.
Oh, we
hate
can't
it.
even
I
see
hate it
that
with every
water
fiber
tower.
of my being.
See, we need to put that water tower somewhere else because we don't even see it here.
Just let us die.
can put it over here.
Erotic.com.
Now that we have come to the season finale of the MCU Stage 4, I have to admit,
Stage 4.
it sucks to be right. Still, cue Razor Fist.
You, I was right. You, I was right. You, I was right.
You heard Grace say it herself, and now the mainstream access media is admitting that the MCU exists. And one thing is abundantly clear. The MCU killed the MCU star. But before we get started with what the kids call
MCU
these days
killed the
coke from the
MCU
access
star.
media, I think we need to do an updated count of the new characters introduced
Well, I
in
like
the
this building
MCU
over here.
Stage 4.
Rip that
and
out,
we'll
'cause we're
do
not
it
gonna
by
even- let me
gender.
see.
All
Yeah, we can't even
two
see
of
that
them,
one.
And we'll start with the men. Sorry, ladies. In order of appearance from Black Widow,
that out.
we had General Dracoff, who is now deceased. Red Guardian.
I am simple man.
You are an idiot.
From Falcon and Winter Soldier, John Walker.
I think we got off on the wrong foot.
Looking strong, John. From Loki, Mobius, and Kang, who is now deceased, kind of. From Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Bracelets, Shang-Chi and his bad
Legend
dad,
of the Ten
Zhu Wenwu,
Bracelets.
deceased. From the Eternals, Druig, Phastos, Kino, and Icarus, deceased. From Moon Knight and Arthur Harrow, deceased. From Thor Love and Thunder, Gore, deceased. And from Wakanda Forever, Namor. Honorable mentions, Mr. Fantastic, deceased. Professor X, deceased. From Doctor Strange Mom. Now for the ladies,
Doctor
this may
Strange
take a
Mom.
minute. From WandaVision, Monica Rambeau and Agatha Harkness. From Black Widow, the new Black Widow, the Taskmaster, and Melena, the female Mengele. Falcon and Winter Soldier, Madam Hydra.
Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Actually, it's Contessa
feel like a logo should go here.
Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
Or Val and Freckle Jesus. Loki, female Loki, and Ravonna Renslayer or Girl Boss. Shang-Chi, Zhu Zheling, Ying Nan, and Marvel's Katie.
Oh my god.
The Eternals, Ajak, Cersei, Makari, Sprite, Athena, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, and Echo. Moon Knight, the
Kate
Scarlet
Bishop!
Scarab. She's an Egyptian superhero, you know.
Kate Bishop. What the fuck are you doing here, Kate Bishop?
Miss Marvel, Doctor Strange Mom, America Chavez.
You don't know anything.
Thor Love and Thunder, female Thor. She-Hulk Attorney at Law, She-Hulk and Titania. Wakanda Forever, Aneka and Ironheart. For those of you counting at home, that is 15 male hero/villains introduced, 5 deceased, and 27 female hero/villains introduced, 0 deceased. And as I've stated before, this is the most Disney Marvel we've ever gotten at any time ever. The MCU Stage 4 is as follows. The films: Black Widow, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Bracelets, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, the only good film in this list, Doctor Strange Mom,
The only good
Thor, Love
film.
and Thunder, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, TV series, WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, I Am Groot, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, TV movies, Werewolf by Night, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which still has to
I
come
think it'd
out,
be easier if
and
I just
no, What If, Werewolf by
grab
Night,
all
and
this.
I Am Groot aren't even worth talking about. Now, we were told that there was no such thing as the MCU. There is no MCU, but maybe there should
There's
be.
no
When the
MCU.
of She-Hulk Attorney at Law hit
The
Disney
fuck is wrong with
Plus,
y'all? There's
the
no MCU.
most instant wave of backlash hit the internet, probably because it sucked. Some people did not like the series explicitly discussing the very real challenges that women face in their careers and their lives.
Oh my
as a
god,
consequence of the
I'm
patriarchy.
fucking
Or maybe,
victimized.
just maybe, I want you to consider this. Maybe the audience didn't like the titular character. She-Hulk
Oh,
also reviewed
those are
bombed
bold
online,
words.
similarly to Black
That's
Panther,
yours?
Captain Marvel, Eternals,
work?
and Miss Marvel. By the way, Black Panther
Didn't
wasn't
work.
review bombed for having main characters that were not
I
white,
have to do this manually here.
heterosexual male, and or for
Whoa,
discussing
whoa, whoa.
issues of racism and sexism.
Racism!
Because that's what we watch superhero.
You are
Reminder, this is
racist!
from the Nerdist who falsely Me Too'd their own founder, Chris Hardwick,
They
and
really
have never
did.
apologized for it, which probably has a little bit to do with no one giving a shit
With
about
Chloe
them anymore. But
Dykstra.
some of the
Fuck
most
that
egregious
bitch.
complaints about the so-called rise of the MCU, in which women are apparently replacing men in the MCU to the tune of almost 2-1. They may certainly be valid criticisms of She-Hulk. However, labeling the series anti-man or woke is really just thinly veiled misogyny and fragile masculinity. Yet you're
Sure.
bitching about the term MCU. Furthermore, when we look at the history of women in the MCU, both in front
Wayman.
and behind the camera, calling the MCU is simply inaccurate. is it now? Let's recap briefly. First, there wasn't an MCU, followed by 5 big problems with the MCU theory. Then it turned into how real is the MCU controversy. Coming right off the heels of that, Marvel Studios just mocked its own sexist MCU controversy, followed by the problem with the MCU, and the latest MCU full-on mode. Every Avenger seems to have a female version.
Full-on
Disney,
friendship.
Marvel, and Kevin Feige created the MCU. I just gave it a slogan that was supposed to be a joke that ended up sticking because
Kevin
it's the
Feige was
MCU.
held
From Screen Rant,
hostage.
published on June 25th,
Let's be honest.
2018. Exclusive. MCU will soon have more female heroes.
He's
than
being
male
held
heroes.
at gunpoint.
Kevin Feige reveals that he envisions a time when more than half of the superheroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe are female.
He's saying that
MCU
with
is
a
being discussed
with a
this
gun
much
barrel in
outside
his
of the
mouth,
fandom
a
until I heard
loaded
from
gun
Grace and
barrel
started doing research
barreling
for
down
this
his
video,
mouth.
and Damn.
Well.
I knew one of the fine members in the audience got banned from Reddit for using it. I've also heard whispers that Disney Marvel hates the term. Good. Let's go to the article that
Good.
has the most even approach to the MCU theory that's very much a reality. 5 big problems with the MCU theory. Number 5, are the ladies successors or replacements? I can answer this quite easily. Replacements. Obviously, this is
They're
just parsing
replacements.
words, but they make a semi-decent point. But being seen as a replacement, which is how some folks, no, a lot of them, do end up seeing certain characters, is a pretty big issue since it means in the eyes of a lot of fans, they will still have a lot of work to do to prove themselves. That might sound incredibly sexist. Oh, we gotta stop right there. There's the bigotry of low expectations and the sexism of low expectations. Kind of like Kevin Feige wanting
Line
female
these
directors,
things
but
up with
not
the
wanting
windows.
them to direct the action scenes. Number 4, the idea of earning their place comes and goes. No, it mostly goes, especially with characters like Monica Rambeau, who was positively affirmed while she was walking through a magic barrier and became omnipotent. Then, of course, there's Miss Marvel, who got her powers from opening a box and finding a bracelet, where the article admits with number
Opening
3,
a box
they
and
tend to
finding a
increase their power
bracelet.
levels quite a bit, and yes, they do. Not to mention the really bizarre, twisted Hollywood morality that goes along with these brand new female stories.
They'll never know what you sacrificed for them.
Let us go. Just let us die.
Just let us
Jumping
die.
on characters that came before isn't the best idea. No, it isn't. This is another point of contention that irks a few fans. A few? No, most. There's a need to be thick-skinned when it comes to being grilled and put on blast. Remember that, new fans. But there's also the need for those who are being introduced into the MCU to show at
I need to
least a
fix these
small
windows here.
amount of respect, or maybe a little more than that, for those who have come before.
Good right there.
After all, those that helped shape the franchise are those that did manage to earn their way with every step. The one thing you're not asking any new female character to do, and every scene, deciding to let some characters rip on others simply because they're there and are now awesome without even half of the development.
They're
feels
not
like a big diss
awesome.
that didn't
If
need
they were awesome, they'd be breaking box office numbers. People would be running to the fucking movie theater. You'd have the movie theaters packed. You wouldn't be able to get a fucking ticket because they would be sold out. If the movies were really fucking awesome, like I remember them to be about 2 or 3 years ago when we watched Infinity War and Endgame, those movies, I couldn't find the tickets. I had to pre-order those tickets months in advance so I can even hope to get good seats, because by the time the movie comes out, there's like a couple seats left and you won't be able to get one next to the other. It'll be like one on the top floor and the other one right in front of the screen. And that's how you're going to be able to enjoy the movie with your friend. That's how packed the movie theaters were. Not anymore. Black Panther Wakanda Forever struggled at the box office. They randomly added $100 million out of nowhere after the box office weekend here in America because they only got $80 million in America. That means that if 80 million people in America went to go see the movie for $1, that's how much people went to go see the movie for $1. But really, if we think about it, movie tickets are like, what, $20 nowadays per person? Divide that by $80 million. What's that? What do you get? How many people do you get watching that fucking movie? Calculator. $80 million divided by $20 is about 4 million people in America gonna go watch the movie. 4 million people. That is ridiculously low. For the amount of Marvel fans that there are there. 4 million to go watch Black Panther? That is pathetic. Pathetic.
To happen, but oh well, no, it's oh well for Disney Marvel. Number one, they are the future of the MCU. Take it as you will, and I'm sure that's the attitude at Disney, but most of us are deciding to leave it. The MCU is a silly kind of idea that marginalizes the franchise at times, or accurately describes it, but there are other times when the idea makes too much sense. One of my favorite things about this gig is reading articles from 25-year-old fans who bought a couple of pop vinyls who set out to debunk our theories and end up validating them. How real is the MCU controversy? Is Marvel Studios really mishandling established characters to push an agenda?
Yes! Yes! Yes!
The Marvel Cinematic Universe is facing a lot of storms this year, one of which is called the MCU controversy, the backlash it is currently receiving from trying to explore new roads that many started
Explore
to
new roads.
woke. What is the MCU controversy all about? One of the current backlashes that Marvel Studios is handling is the notorious MCU, a term used by social media users to criticize and condemn MCU's method of female representation. Out of all the female-led shows, She-Hulk Attorney at Law receives the biggest blow. Do you want to know why? Oh, you would have to read comic books to know why, so I'm just gonna nerd-splain you. We liked She-Hulk and knew She-Hulk because we read the comic books. The showrunner of She-Hulk Attorney at Law
did not
only
read the
didn't know
comic
anything
book.
about the law, she didn't read any comic books, and she didn't like the fans, and it showed. Just like in previous articles, they try to conflate the entirety of the MCU with the MCU. Again, the MCU is just stage 4. It just finished, and well, I stand by everything I've said. There's also the usual, we're racist and sexist for even bringing this up. Is Marvel Studios doing something about this backlash? Marvel Studios' awareness of the MCU controversy shows that their top priorities are creative freedom.
They're not. That's not.
And relevant
That's not their top
change.
priority.
While many viewers would look at this as pushing an agenda, because it is, it only demonstrates the studio's commitment to becoming a platform for diversity and a voice for the silenced. The bigotry.
I'm
of
silenced.
Expectations. You're marginalized. You're silenced. No, you're not. But it doesn't end there. Look at how many kids were inspired when they saw Chadwick Boseman become the Black Panther. I totally agree, and look how many kids weren't inspired when they didn't recast the role. Look at how many women were encouraged to speak up and take up space when Brie Larson became Captain Marvel. You mean the same Captain Marvel that got demoted in her own sequel had more men watching it than women? You know where the women took up space? Aquaman. Let's very briefly go back to the Nerdist. There is no MCU, but maybe there should be, and the final sentence of the second paragraph. Furthermore, when we look at the history of women in the MCU, both in front and behind the camera, calling the MCU is simply inaccurate, except of course when it is. From direct, Marvel Studios just mocked its own sexist MCU controversy. The mainstream media, the access media, and a large portion of Hollywood has always hated nerds, and they still hate them. That's why the showrunners from the MCU's She-Hulk actually wrote it into their scripts. Let that sink in again for just a moment. Marvel Comics, making fun of what Hollywood, the mainstream media, and the access media calls the incel, the virgin in their basement, the nerd. Their terms, not ours, but it's no coincidence that they're slinging the same shit that the jocks did back in the 80s, because they are the same. Oh, but the MCU tried to be cute, but it ended up being a net loss. She-Hulk has already dropped out from the charts, and yes, I do believe it has contributed to the diminishing returns from Marvel. Just look at Black Panther's second week that Hollywood and Disney is trying to spin as we speak. Wakanda Forever dropped 79% Friday to Friday, and it's looking like it's going to drop anywhere between 65% or 70% from its previous week. Reminder, Black Panther, the original, only dropped 47% in its second weekend. Another reminder, one of the biggest drop-offs in Disney Marvel history was Thor: Love and Thunder at 68%. So bare minimum, they're only 3% away from that. But the news gets worse for Disney, which quite frankly makes me happy. my good friend Ryan Kinnell from RK Outpost pointed out in a video, which will be linked in the description. The number you really want to pay attention to is tickets sold, which are down from Black Panther for Wakanda Forever up to 40%. You heard me right. 40% fewer people watch Wakanda Forever. What Disney, Marvel, and Hollywood is doing right now is charging more money to fewer people. Yes, there's diminishing returns. Yes, there's Disney, Marvel fatigue. Also, there is more people seeing through Disney's bullshit. Yes, this is the same company that thanked a concentration camp in China, shrunk Finn on the Force Awakens poster for China, covered up Chadwick Boseman's face with a mask on a poster for China, and most recently decided to celebrate the release of Wakanda Forever with a purple drink and chicken. You shouldn't be surprised. This is the same company that said Doctor Strange was just another white guy. This is also the same company that Disney Marvel producer Nate Moore thought it was worth putting the Eternals up the list and then race and gender swapping all of them because nobody cared about the characters. Think about that one for just a moment. Bottom line, virtue signaling by giant billion-dollar corporations is a luxury they can no longer afford. What's the MCU? Well, to begin with, it's just content for a platform made by pie charts, graphs, and analytics. The MCU is male characters being diminished and being surrounded by female character clones, outright degrading the male character to lift up the female character. To sum it up, the MCU is replacing men with women who act like men. Not a movement. It's not progress. It's risk-averse marketing. But this isn't a surprise coming from the company that convinced a lot of people to give Disney a lot of money to see Black Panther to quote-unquote fight racism. Very simple why Marvel succeeded in the beginning. They told a good story and they were able to adapt their own source material correctly. Iron Man looked and acted like Iron Man. Captain America looked and acted like Captain America. And Black Panther looked and acted like Black Panther. And now all three of them
Black Panther!
What you expect. And one of the final acts of the MCU is to do the most MCU thing possible. Remove a man's penis. That's right. Namor's junk is no more. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next
trailer
video.
Película. Película. What are these? Do these light up? Let me see. What's going on here? Mission.
Oh, look, we're getting our own mid-credit scene because we got some pretty big news while editing this video. Bob Chapek has been fired and replaced with Bob Iger, the guy who started all this mess. Meet the new Disney, same as the old Disney.
Is there any animation data here? There's no animation. So I'm confused. Let me just undo this. But I kind of like that idea.
And at this time, the rights were split. The film rights belonged to Paramount, the television rights belonged to CBS, who decided to start their tenure by suing fans, and some issues with borrowing without permission from other intellectual properties. Now only known as Kurtzman Trek, Star Trek used to be a series that inspired astronauts.
No, we're not watching that. We're not, no. Okay. Here we go. This is what I wanted to hear.
This message is to all our would-be accomplices and white allies.
Wait for it.
White ally.
This message is to all the white people who have BLM in their bio.
Wait for it.
If you really want to prove to black people that you love us and you care about us and you are down for the cause,
wait for it.
Do not go see that movie opening weekend.
That Caucasian drop, that is really disheartening. That's shocking. The box office debut for Black Panther Wakanda Forever is noticeably lower than the first Black Panther.
You want to go see Black Panther?
Wait for it. Here it comes.
I don't think I will.
Almost there.
No. No, I don't think I will.
So stupid. Okay.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and we are now into the
some
second
LED
week
signs
of
here.
Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the best movie ever created in history. And I think it's time to start looking at how the box office looks. And there's been some interesting commentary around whether or not the movie was a flop. I don't think it was a flop. I think that that's probably not a fair assessment of it. However,
No,
I
it was
do
a flop.
think it's entirely likely at this point that the movie will
Nobody saw it.
either lose money.
Nobody saw it.
Or
Let's be
make
honest.
Only a little bit of money. What we're really going to find out is in the second weekend how much the drop off is, how much legs the movie got. The audience really loved it. Audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 95%. Even though the critics actually only gave it an 84%. But there's some very interesting demographics and money conversations that we had about exactly where the MCU is. And we're going to get into that after a super quick word from this video sponsor.
Huge
shout out to this video sponsor, Established Titles. Established
No,
Titles
we're not.
is a
No, no.
dragged on. So I mean, you've got to have a tight 3 hours if you want to screw out. Even Endgame dragged on at times.
The casino,
I
right?
mean,
Let's make it a
I don't
casino.
think Marvel has really earned this 3 hour runtime stuff that they do, but that's just my opinion. The critics gave it an 84, which is vastly dropped from the original Black Panther movie, but the fans seem to love it. I nothing Black Panther. I mean, I like Black Panther as a character.
Black
but I knew
Panther
wasn't going to be in this movie. I knew that
Something
they were
like
going
this.
to replace him with a woman, and I wasn't interested.
Caesar's
in that.
Palace.
There's every major MCU film in this recent phase. Really, its main kind of introduction was a female star.
Encore. Okay.
You had Lady Thor in Thor: Love and Thunder, and by the way, I love Natalie Portman, but her performance in that movie sucked.
Taj Mahal.
She was garbage in that movie. Okay, I don't know if she
Something
just
like
took it
this.
for the paycheck
Caesar's
and didn't
Palace.
care. She didn't bother going to the gym. They had CGI muscles. It was ridiculous. And by the way,
She
her
didn't
performance
bother
was
going to
in
the
general
gym.
bad, and the writing was bad. And it was probably the second worst Thor movie I've ever seen. Might have been actually the worst because you don't really have much of an excuse at this point. You know the formula. But the reviews are
Brotendos
fine.
Palace.
But what I want to
Something
talk
like
about
that.
is how the film, in a lot of ways, has underperformed, and I believe that financially, it's going to lose money or make only a little, which is going to be a huge L for Disney.
Fucking hilarious.
Let's talk about some of the woke stuff first of all, and some of the other reasons why I think Black Panther 2
That's
is underperforming,
Right
and
here.
also why the bar is so high. Let's start there. The budget. The budget is absurd. $250 million budget.
Damn, son, they didn't even recuperate
million.
it.
Wakanda
They
Forever,
didn't even recuperate their budget.
Doesn't need that kind of budget. Variety revealed Black Panther sequel carries a production budget of $250 million, making it the most expensive film to feature a black lead. Don't care. I don't care about who it features. I'm talking about the money that they spent on this movie. Doesn't look like $250 million either. But anyway, so then
That was
why
Victoria
they accept
Alonso's
the
call.
formula. This isn't my formula.
Namor,
This is
el
the film
niño
industry,
sin
right? Is they
amor.
take the budget
El
times
niño without
2
dinero
to
too.
include marketing. So now you need $500 million in your pocket to break even, right? We're on the same page. $250 million for production, $250 million for marketing. That's the industry standard for math. So people hear $500 million and they're like, oh, okay, well, so you need $500 million. Incorrect. Because remember, when box office numbers are reported, they are not reported what the studio got. They're reported what the theaters sold. And in most situations, the theater
They split
splits
the revenue.
tickets with the
That's true.
producer of the film 50-50.
Oh, I didn't even
Meaning,
think of that.
You know, the movie producer gets 50 cents on the dollar for everything. Now, in Disney's case, I believe I read a few years ago that Disney has a higher split than anybody else, and I think for the Avengers movies or Marvel movies, I've seen it as high as 60 cents on the dollar. Okay, so to make up that $500 million they've spent, they need about $850 million in box office. $850 million times 60 cents, essentially, okay, is $510 million. Same page, right? So they need like $820 million to break even by this math, okay? That's a huge problem. Huge. You need $850 million before you start making anything? That is a very poor investment. You could look at a movie like The Joker, which I think had an $80 million budget or a $20 million budget. I think it was 80, and it made $1 billion. Okay, so that's why you get sequels, right? So in almost every scenario, so they're starting out way behind the 8 ball. They need $850 million to about break even. Although if you're watching this video and you haven't yet subscribed, please do click that red subscribe button down below. I know I'm covering
using
a lot of
InDesign
Elon
or
Musk
Illustrator
stuff
because
lately,
this has changed.
but I obviously cover the film industry. I cover technology. I cover basically everything except hard politics. And so I would absolutely love if you subscribed. So they have, I know you might have to create an account, and that's kind of a pain, but trust me, it goes a long ways for me, and I greatly appreciate it.
I goodly appreciate it.
800.
So this guy's a walking ad, dude.
$850 million. It brings in $510 million. Okay. Now let's also address a couple things. Marvel has, for a very long time, been blocked out of China. The first Black Panther film made about $100 million.
Black Panther. How is this possible that we cannot play our movie in China?
$30 million. I believe they cut out all the LGBTQ stuff so they could still show in the Middle East. But you're talking about $130 million lost up front. Then
what font should we use?
Let's talk about the media. The media narrative is hilarious. It's really a lot of this other stuff too. Remember, like this woke stuff. Like you had no real strong male lead in this film,
kind of gay,
except Newmore or whatever. But he wasn't even on the poster. He was upside down on the poster, whatever the case is.
Namor.
It's the MCU. All 3 of the major MCU films starred or co-starred a woman, and they all sucked so far this year. But also, there's kind of this woke narrative that was going around on the internet. Remember when all these TikToks were like, "Oh, white people shouldn't go see Black Panther. They should reserve their spot for black people," which is
reserve their spot for black people.
Here's something interesting. I tweeted out, they told white people to stay home from Black Panther 2, and it worked. Here's the original breakdown from Black Panther 1. 37% black, 35% Caucasian, 18% Hispanic, 5% Asian / other.
I like that one. Perfect.
The
fucking
recent
font right there
was
beautiful.
44% black,
okay,
21% Hispanic, so it went up a little bit, but not much, even though they had representation there. And Caucasian went from 35% down to 20, 15 basis points. That's actually massive. Now, there's a lot more, of course. Maybe white folks were more tied to Chadwick Boseman and tied to Black Panther in particular. I don't actually think that, those viral TikToks necessarily had that big of an effect, but I do think that it was a non-zero thing, right? I think that She-Hulk, which was a disaster, scared people off. And then you see a lot of people, shout out to Hontus. They're always in my replies. They're very kind about disagreeing. I don't like to dunk on them, so please don't. But, this is just incorrect. They wrote, name a sequel that did as well or better than the first movie. It's a very rare thing. That's just dead wrong.
That's dead wrong. Back to the Future 2.
Captain America, Winter Soldier, Shrek 2, The Dark Knight, Toy Story 2, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Almost every Avengers movie made more money than the previous. So, no, it's absolutely not uncommon, especially in Marvel, for sequels to make more money than the originals. So you end up with some real questions here. Yes, Black Panther will make a lot of money. I mean, it will gross a lot of money. You see, the original Black Panther dominated during its theatrical
we can also
run,
convert this to
$700 million in North America, $1.4 billion.
Do I remember how to do this?
But we also know that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is underperforming in international markets. There may be, a reason for that. It's tough to know for sure. I mean, obviously, losing China is relevant. I actually don't think that Black Panther 2 was a terrible movie. I just think that it wasn't very good, and I think it was an average Marvel movie, which is what Marvel puts out. But I think ultimately there is Marvel
lock this.
fatigue, and the
Okay.
media
Oh,
is
Jesus.
doing everything it can to
Lock
spin
this.
this. But when you actually break down the real numbers, $750 to $850
Now,
million
when we
to break
select
even.
this,
I mean,
go to
we'll
pen
talk
mode.
about it making $1 billion, but
Can
I
actually-
think there's a lot of worse. There are a lot better investments than spending $850 million to make 100.
Something
That's a
like
really low return on investment. I mean, it's still $100
that.
million, but Chadwick is gone. That's a big draw. The rest of the crew not really, as important. I think you say strongest Latino in Marvel got beaten by a 60-pound skinny girl, then got his people colonized. I mean, there's also some questions about how they view Hispanic people or Latino people in this film.
It's
There
very
were articles talking
fucking
about it
racist.
being too woke. I think that also the existence of Disney Plus probably mutes people from going to the theater. I mean, remember that the very same people who love those lockdowns, there will be people that will never ever
Whatever,
want
let's
to go
keep it
back to
simple.
the movie theater because they're too afraid to. Will Black Panther make a lot of money, gross a lot of money? Yeah. But whether or not it's actually going to be a financial success remains to be seen. And with flops like the Eternals, I think Thor: Love and Thunder disappointed at the box office. I know
Okay, that's good enough.
Doctor Strange did well at the
Fucking-
box office, but it wasn't an awesome movie. It wasn't even as good as the first one. So, I felt
okay,
played out. I
fine.
felt kind of bored with Wanda since we had WandaVision and all this kind of stuff. So I think Marvel has a real big problem at their hands right now. I'll be interested to hear what you say in the comment section down below, and we'll
From
talk
all
to
of
you real
this.
soon.
I can expand all this. I becomes 1. And if I go to mode and got that, lock this one, and delete it. Delete that. Okay, good. That was gonna give us problems. Import it back into Blender. What's going on over here? What is this?
Here I come. Oh, here
I
come.
know.
Oh.
I know. No. We're good. We're good. Here, let's Quentin Tarantino. Why is he on there? Why is Quentin Tarantino? Here, let's listen to some Tim Pool. The fuck does this beanie faggot has to
In
say?
a powerful meme post, Lauren Chen hit around 46,000 retweets.
Whoa!
posting 2 pictures
Oh my god!
Before Elon and Twitter after Elon. Now, why would these images garner so much attention? The first image shows a Twitter office and every
Predominantly
person, well,
women.
almost every person, a woman. You can see there's a few guys. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. Wait, I see
5 guys?
men in the picture.
Whoa!
Maybe I'm getting my math. Maybe I'm not seeing it. Wait,
Oh
1,
my-
2, 3, 4, 5,
I-
6.
I think you're misgendering
It's
people,
mostly
Tim.
Women. In the after Elon Musk image,
Where
I
is this
see
shit?
1, 2 women, and it's all guys.
2
All
women.
guys. Now, there may be a woman back here, but you can just see the 4. That might be a guy. I can't tell. So the idea is that before Elon comes into Twitter, it's mostly female. Once he takes over, the ladies are all gone, mostly men. And then, I'm sorry, I had to hit this one in the head. I said, Elon didn't fire women. He asked who
Oh
wanted
wait, I
to
saved
work
it wrong.
hard.
We'll save it as an SVG.
LMFAO. Yes, I know. There's a typo. It says he asked
Look at
who
all those
wanted to
fat
work
bros
hard.
at Twitter,
He
dude.
asked who wanted to work hard. Oh, heavens. The memes. Well, here was the story, and you may have seen it. Elon Musk sends middle-of-the-night email demanding extremely hardcore work culture at Twitter with long hours and at high intensity.
All right,
So
let's
there,
bring this
my
in now.
friends, you hit the nail on the head with the hammer.
Import
Elon Musk comes into Twitter.
SVG.
He says to all of his employees, who wants to work hard? Next thing you
Not
know,
me.
the image he posts, all guys.
Women don't want to work hard.
Okay. Well, we got to break this down and actually get into the science and the facts.
Are you saying women don't work
It's
hard,
not fair
Tim?
to claim that it's that simple. I certainly think many people want to view it that way, and my Twitter post is
this?
mostly joking, but still,
Take that.
it does say something. Now, a lot of
clean that
people are
looks.
assuming outright that the photo on the left is like a Twitter team. Elon comes in, says, who's working hard? They all quit. Then it's all guys. They're two different teams.
Going on
the
here.
left, with all the women, mostly women, is the communications team. On the right, it's the engineering team. So the point is, as much as it might be funny to assume that all of the women instantly quit when they were told they had to work, the reality is we do actually see a stark difference based on gender right here before our eyes. And as much as some are trying to fact check this to make it seem like it's not real, it is real. But let's break it down. Lauren Chen's viral tweet has a Birdwatch context post on it because it's gotten so many retweets. It says, this is not a before and after of Twitter as is claimed. The before picture is a group of people who worked on the Twitter comms team seen here.
I see what's
the after picture
These are all curves.
is a group of engineers posted by Elon Musk.
Convert
I was
these
surprised to see this
mesh.
because Elon thinks Birdwatch is the solution to misinformation. It's not. This context, wrong.
Merge the
absolutely wrong.
Vertices by distance.
And it doesn't actually get to the issue at hand. Lauren Chen did not say anything other than Twitter before Elon versus Twitter after Elon. This is
Join
real.
all this together.
The before photo is actually from before Elon. The after photo is actually from after Elon. But
we're gonna go ahead and
from before and after. So here's the post. It's from
add
November
some geometry
4th.
to this.
So Elon Musk had already moved in, already started the purchase. Julie Steele tweeted, "Twitter is so special after 4
Look
years.
at that,
I'm
boys.
with
And
the
now
fullest heart. Experiences I never imagined and
we're
unbreakable
gonna go
bonds with so many
ahead,
tweets.
use the
My head is held
nodes.
high knowing that I give it my absolute all. Twitter comms. We have so much to be proud of. Time to fly even higher." What Lauren Chen said is true. They're fact-checking it, but it's true. There's no political context in what she said. The comms team is out. My understanding is that Elon Musk eliminated the entire communications team. There was some news article that said that we reached out to Twitter for comment, but the Twitter communication staff were all eliminated.
Right.
Something like that. So this is the team that was around before. And you can see this, some of the photos have a lot more guys, but it is still mostly women. Another image. This one's all women. The next one, you've seen it.
Look at that.
And then lastly,
nice.
there's one guy and then 4 women. The communications team was overwhelmingly female. Elon Musk. So we'll get into this.
Do that
Elon
Caesar's
Musk
Palace
comes
thing
in,
again.
starts making changes. The existing teams start breaking down. People
well,
are quitting. People are getting
let's
fired.
do-
And people are leaving. Afterwards,
Is a
Elon Musk
back
sends out
red.
the email saying, "Who wants to work really, really hard?" Weeding
Like
out
that.
many more of the remaining people.
And
Once again, you see mostly guys. Now, you can argue it's that
Mission,
women
mission.
don't want to work hard. And guess what? I don't know if work hard is the right way to frame it, because certainly raising families, being at home is very, very hard. But they don't want work in the masculine sense that, men would view as being in the workplace. Working hard and being in the workplace,
There
I
we
get it.
go.
I'm trying to be careful here on the semantics and the colloquial language breakdown. What I mean to say is
now we
women
bring
don't want to
this-
be in the
copy
office.
that.
Most of them don't.
And
Or, I'm
here.
sorry, it's not most of them. Around half don't. Slightly less than the majority.
Tim, you're being sexist as
We also
fuck.
see
Shut
a
up.
very stark difference between men and women. Women are on the communications team. Men are on the engineering team. Can we ask questions about why that is? Why is it that all the communication staff are female? Maybe because it could be the trope that women are more social and women are subject oriented, men are object oriented. I mean, this is
Look at all
like
those
when
fat
you talk
fucking
about the
nerds at Twitter,
differences between
dude.
males and females. You
Jesus,
just
look
tell
at
a
this
room of
guy right
people
here in the
to
middle
sort
in the
themselves from
gray,
tallest
this
to
tubby
shortest,
right
and what do
here.
you get most of the men on one side going down to the women, with some, higher
Look
or
at
lower ends of
Tubby.
the bell curve. Some men will be shorter, some women will be taller. But
Shut
here you
up,
can see
Tim.
it.
You're being
There
racist
are
as
some women
fuck.
in the engineering team who want to work really hard. That's awesome. There are some men that want to be in the communications team. That's really, really cool. But it seems like there's a clear distinction between what men and women want to do. But let's break it down. Well,
I don't want to break it down, Tim. Stop breaking it down for me.
Meme post meant to
You're
be funny
cringe.
and doesn't necessarily mean scientific evidence that women just want to leave and don't want to work.
God,
hard.
Tim is so
The reality
cringe.
is, women don't want to be in the workplace. That's true. Raising kids, you could argue, actually harder. You get no breaks. You get no time off. Some could argue it's actually nicer.
Tim, you have all the time off, and you
you're
have
your
no
own
kids.
boss,
What the fuck are you talking about?
But the polls show it. Pew Research.
polls
says- I got a
show
bunch of-
what?
I got a bunch of data here.
No, you
Public
don't. You
views
didn't do
on
any
staying
data
at home
research.
versus working.
You hired like
Despite the fact
3
that most
people
mothers
to
in the US
fucking
work
do
at
your
least
fact
part-time,
checking.
Many Americans continue to believe that having a mother who stays at home is beneficial for a young child. And this is what we've
Shut
been
up.
seeing across the board. Take a look at this. From the New York Times. Do millennial men want stay-at-home wives? It's funny
Yes.
that they posted an opinion article
I'll agree with
whose
that.
title is a question when the answer is yes. It is. It's amazing. Here's what they write. Millennials, generally defined as people born between 1982 and 2000, were supposed to be the generation that forged what has been called a new national consensus in favor of gender equality. Indeed, in February, the prominent Columbia professor Jeffrey Sachs labeled the 2016 election, where an extremely qualified female candidate lost to a man with a history of disrespecting women, a blip on the road to
man.
an egalitarian society. But the millennial category lumps together everybody from age 17 to 34, a group varied by race, ethnicity, religion, income, education, and life experience. Don't think for a second they are united. As a set of reports released Friday by the Council on Contemporary Families reveals, fewer of the youngest millennials, those age 18 to 25, support egalitarian family arrangements than did the same age group 20 years earlier. To put it simply, my friends,
I'm not your
the
friend.
current younger generation wants stay-at-home wives. A guy wants to work, and he wants a wife who's going to be at home to raise his family. Now, when
It sounds like we came full
did
circle.
that become disrespectful? It's the craziest thing to me. Ladies, I don't care if you don't have a job. If you're qualified for the job, do it. Men, I don't care if you think women should be in the workplace. That's cool. And men, I don't care if you think women should be at home. Why is it? Tell me this. Why is it disrespectful to say women should be in the home? Men should be on the oil refineries.
Because there's a fucking agenda to make women
factories.
men.
Men should be in the coal mines. Is that offensive? I don't get it. Saying that a man should do a thing or a woman should do a thing, why is it offensive? Here's my point. I don't agree with that sentiment that men or women should do anything. I believe in individualism. But what is wrong with raising kids? What is wrong with being good at taking care of a home and raising a generation of people? When I see this thing from Twitter, and I assume
Like the
that when
here.
Elon said, who's going to stay here and work hard? I bet you had the remaining female employees. Many of them were like, I don't want to do it. Because it's only slightly more than half of women that actually think women should be in the workplace. It's slightly more than half, which is crazy. You'd think that would mean there'd be way more women at home with kids. So why aren't they? This is what I don't like.
Because, Tim,
I don't like it.
they're just
that if
not.
you say women are better at homemaking. That's somehow offensive. I'm sorry. Saying that women are better than men at a thing is offensive? Okay, women should be in the workplace.
Women
but
make sandwiches
don't want
better.
The long hours and tend not to like a more strenuous, high-paced work environment. And
Women should
want
be
more
men.
time off, need more time off. What am I supposed to say about this? Time off.
Women need to be men, dude.
There's
That's the
problems
problem
in
here.
all of this with how everything is phrased. So let's put it this way.
No, don't
Taking
put it
care of a
anyway.
home is the most important work. A man can go out and hunt and defeat a bear
Hunt?
with his own 2 hands,
Tim.
strangling that bear, punching the bear right in the mouth, and
Tim.
jamming his arm down the
Tim.
bear's throat.
Tim, you don't participate in any of these. You don't participate in any of these activities that you're saying right now, and it's kind of pathetic.
Taking care of a home.
This guy fucking streams all day. He doesn't even go out in the field anymore. By his own admission, he's not a reporter anymore because I guess he's gotten too fucking popular or some shit. So now he just stays at fucking home streaming all day, and then he does his podcast at night where if anyone fucking disagrees with him, oh boy, does it become a fucking issue on his podcast.
Important work. A man can go out and hunt and defeat a bear.
You're not
with
that
his own
man.
2 hands,
You're not. You
strangling the
wish.
bear,
You fucking
punching
wish,
the
you
bear
faggot.
right in the mouth and
You're a
jamming
fucking
his
fag.
arm down the bear's throat. And
You
the bear
wish.
struggles
You're
to
getting
breathe
horny
and
just
then
thinking about
dies.
it.
And the man stands up and goes, I have defeated
He knows
this
he's
bear."
trolling. He knows it.
For what reason?
He knows it.
What now will I do with this bear, says man who has no family. no kids, no one to care about, he wouldn't even bother killing the bear. He only needs to support himself. He's got nothing.
Hey,
The man goes out.
I've never
and
killed a
hunts the
bear.
Okay, hunts the deer. So that he can bring home and provide for a family.
Tim, you literally do none
without
of
the family,
that.
there's no point in doing it.
You don't even have kids. You have zero
support
responsibility.
yourself, you
Your
sustain
kids
yourself.
are
Men
your
don't like it when families,
employees.
They do that. I get it. But why? Who cares about what the man is doing? The man is only doing things to support the family. And if there's no family, the man may as well just go off and live in the woods or live in a cave by himself.
You go live in the woods. The hell's wrong with this guy?
The most important job, in my opinion, is being in the house, taking care of the family. And that's why society has so often preferenced women over men in terms of safety, to the detriment of the individuality
good.
and freedoms of some women for a
I
long
like
period
Alfredo's
of time. I
Palace.
totally recognize that. My point here is, I'm not surprised to see that when someone comes into a workplace and says, we're working overtime, we're working double time, who's in? It's mostly guys. It's mostly guys. Record high. Look at this from 2019. 56% of U.S. women prefer working to homemaking. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait there.
That's got to be a bullshit article.
Let's talk
be
about
honest.
what that means. 44% of women prefer homemaking to working. I respect it. I don't care if a woman wants to work in an office with a bunch of future ideas. There's an image right here. It's a woman. And it says future ideas with blank Post-it notes. I don't care if a woman wants to work or stay at home. Really. But I will point out when Gallup
even have
shows
anything written on
that
there.
around half
that
of
looks
women
nice.
would rather
Yeah,
be
I
at
like
home.
that.
You
Bam.
think that's true of men? It's not. So I have to wonder
Got
how
looks
much
right
of
there.
this is
Looking pretty good. All right.
nuanced and
I'm
we're
going to
not
put this
getting
to
the whole
render, and
Take a-
we'll be back after these messages.